Good morning.
Morning, everybody.
Morning.
Morning.
Give it just another minute and see who else is going to get on here. All right, well, I guess we'll get going. Looks like we've got almost everybody on. Happy 2025, everybody. Glad to see you all back this year. And a few new faces in here. We're going to start out this morning with an update from our coordinator, Jessica. Take it away.
Good morning, everyone, and Happy New Year. Go ahead and share my screen. Okay, and now let's start going through some of the year 1, year 2, and year 3 updates. So items from the action plan from year 1 that are still in progress were create a welcome home community engagement program, support ready to work partnership, and designate a lead service provider for family systems. Items that are in progress still from year 1 are create a welcome home community engagement program. And some work that's being done to support that is we had our second housing stability cohort meeting on the 3rd. So that was last Friday. We discussed some welcome home baskets with community partners and then the items that they would like included in it. And then also discuss some of the logistics around launching it. So I'll finalize those within the next 2 weeks. For workforce development programs, support Ready to Work partnership. So that's slated still to open in early spring 2025. And as it opens, I'll support partnerships and make sure to have service collaboration as the opening approaches. For designating a lead service provider, that is something that will be integrated into the new action plan under family systems. Year 2 items that are still in progress, create the central navigation system, pilot safe parking initiative, promote shared housing, and strengthen outreach to landlords. For workforce development programs, engage with AD Works. And lastly, for family system, pilot a peer support specialist program to outreach to families and explore expanding HCV to families. So some of those items that are in progress, piloting a safe parking initiative, bi-weekly meetings with city reps to continue this work. And then later in today's meeting, I'll discuss upcoming changes and some proposed workarounds to the changes that are coming up. Strengthen landlord outreach. So the landlord outreach initiative work plan, it's in place, meeting monthly with the housing stability cohort, and working on the welcome home baskets and also the landlord incentive program with the housing stability cohort. And then the Key Heart training was completed on the 28th and the 30th. There was 2 half-day trainings. And I'll just kind of go over those outcomes on the next slide. The 28th, the subject matter was landlord engagement. We had 13 total participants. And the agencies that were represented, who are part of the housing stability cohort, are All Health Path case managers, Family Tree housing navigators, South Metro housing options, and Arapahoe County housing navigators. On the 30th, the subject matter was housing stability, and we had 14. And again, All Health Path case managers, Family Tree housing navigators, the South Metro housing option case managers, and Arapahoe County housing navigators. And for year 3, items that have been completed were the convening of the local healthcare providers to discuss the street outreach team, and items that are in progress are sponsoring the PSH feasibility assessment. For convening local healthcare providers, I'm continuing to work with Sean Marsden, the program manager with Stride, in developing a really strong plan of action moving forward where they know where to outreach in the Tri-Cities area. Part of that is they will be volunteering for the point in time count, and that will give them some more insight as to certain pockets that within the Tri-Cities that have a high volume of individuals experiencing homelessness, and give them a better insight as to places that they can go for outreach. And then along with that, Sean and I have been discussing with the social workers and case manager at Swedish Hospital on presenting on some of the resources available and how Stride can help support discharge for patients who are at Swedish and who may be experiencing homelessness. For the single adult systems sponsoring the PSH feasibility assessment, the work plan for the feasibility assessment was completed and approved by the steering committee on 12/18. The evaluation committee was identified with city representatives from each city and Arapahoe County representatives. And that was presented to the evaluation committee yesterday, the scope of services and the scoring criteria. And city representatives, county representatives had approved it. So I'll work with Lindsey with community resources to incorporate any edits and have the bare bones RFP document sent to our procurement. And we are looking at having it posted hopefully by February 1st or the 15th to BidNet. And that lands us with 60% of the action plan completed and 40% that's in progress.
Thanks, Jessica.
No problem.
Anybody have questions on that update? No? Okay, well, we'll move right along. Got 3 different people presenting today. We're going to start off with Cameron Shropshire. Cameron, if you want to introduce yourself, and Cameron's going to talk a little bit about the 2025 pit count.
Good morning, everyone. So I'm Cameron Shropshire. I'm the program administrator for Housing and Homelessness Services for Arapahoe County. So the pit count is scheduled for Tuesday, January 28th. The actual count will start on sundown on the 27th and go through sundown on the 28th. We will be covering areas throughout the Tri-Cities, Sheridan, and unincorporated Arapahoe County out towards that Aurora area. We are actively working on volunteer recruitment, so we're just trying to make sure we can fill the gaps and needs at all of our locations. It's kind of what we're focusing on now. We want to remind everyone that the portal for the pit count will be closing at the end of the day on the January 27th. Along with the point in time count, we will be providing incentives to all of the participants. So we'll have bags with hygiene items, food items, some non-perishable foods, hats and gloves, some Mylar blankets, and some other items to help people throughout the winter season, and to thank them for participating in the count. We'll also be providing additional resources for them, so if they do need to come back to the county for additional support resources, they have that information as well. Are there any questions regarding the count?
Is there anything that's really different this year, or kind of the same as last year?
Pretty much the same as last year. We didn't change any of the questions on the survey, so we will be able to, again, we'll have data for Arapahoe County as a whole, but we'll be able to gather data that's more specific to the cities as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to put the link in the chat box, so if anyone is wanting to volunteer, you can just click on the link. It'll take you to the county's Better Impact Volunteer website, and we would love to have anyone who's interested in volunteering.
Great. Okay. Anyone have questions for Cameron about the point in time? Go ahead, Emily.
Hey, Cameron.
So,
I was just curious, and I have a meeting with Molly Steffen next week to talk more specifically about Englewood, but are you guys talking to the local shelters about opening regardless of weather conditions that night? I guess it would be from the 27th to the 28th.
yes, so our COC is working with the shelters just to make sure that they can gather that data. So determining who is utilizing HMIS, who isn't, and just to make sure we can gather those paid numbers that night, and as well as determine who's going to be open or closed.
And open that night regardless, that it's really helpful for measurement purposes. But I wasn't sure what that conversation looked like since some of our local sheltering services changed this past year.
Yeah, that's what we're working to determine. There was some significant changes from last year, and it was absolutely helpful to have everyone open on the night of the pit count, just so we could gather those numbers. But it could be more weather determined this year, but again, we're working with our COC to make sure they're coordinating with all of our local shelters within the county.
Well, thank you.
Absolutely.
Are you in touch with our police departments as well to kind of see if they have any info on where people might be located?
I believe
know you
Molly is coordinating with the local police departments, just so they're aware that the count's happening, but also if there's any information on potential hotspots that we should need to add to the list.
Great. Okay. Any other questions for Cameron? Appreciate that update. Thanks for being here.
Okay, and I'll
And
throw
good
my
luck.
email address. I'll throw my email
Yeah.
address in the chat as well if anyone has any questions later.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have Lindsey Gorzalski-Hocking. She's going to walk us through the grant program they've been working on, next steps. Thought this group might be interested if you aren't already familiar with it.
Yes. Hi, everybody. And thank you, Krista, for sharing my slide. I'm Lindsey Gorzalski-Hocking. I'm the Executive Director of Innovative Housing Concepts, which is the public housing authority for the city of Inglewood. And then we manage Sheridan's Housing Authority. We have a grant program that's completely separate from any of our federal programs, our voucher programs, our subsidized housing programs. That is called the Next Step 2 Generation Grant. It is through DOH, Division of Housing. And it is a collaboration grant between us and 2 school districts, Sheridan School District and Inglewood Schools. The kind of point of this grant is to identify families with school-age children who are either experiencing homelessness or at risk of experiencing homelessness and stabilize their housing in hopes that that improves educational outcomes for the kiddos in school. We have had this grant since the fall of 2020. We originally started it just with Sheridan. Sheridan actually approached us to be the housing provider on the grant. And we put it together really quickly, but got it. And it's been a really, really fantastic grant to have all that time. Then when we renewed the grant for the first time in the spring of 2023, we added Inglewood to the mix. We didn't actually spend all the money that we were granted in that first round. So we brought in another school partner so we can make sure we use all the funds that we were given, and we can use the funds to help a family secure housing. So we can do security deposits, moving costs, things like that. For families that are at risk of experiencing homelessness and maybe facing eviction, we can use the funds to pay a couple months rent, pay late fees, maybe pay some late utilities, kind of anything that stabilizes their housing. The grant also pays for the person at the housing authority who does that work. We have someone who is a housing coordinator who helps folks find housing, helps folks talk with landlords, helps the families also connect with other resources if they need it, if they're experiencing food insecurity, any mental health issues. We kind of do an assessment of the family to kind of see where they're at. And if they need more than housing, we will connect them to other services. The schools help with that piece too. We're often referred families to us by the family liaisons, the school counselors. So these are kiddos that are already kind of having some academic issues, and the school continues to work with the family on that side to make sure attendance is better, the students are performing better, they have all they need to achieve their educational outcomes once we get them housed. So it's a really cool program. It really just wraps around families to make sure that the kiddos can have those good educational outcomes. So in this current grant cycle, which started April 1st of 2023, we have been able to help 37 families. The grant cycle is basically April 1st to March 31st. The way the grant is set up, we've estimated to help 20 families per year. So we're kind of perfectly on track to do the 40 families by the end of the grant cycle. The grant will end here in March 31st of this year. We have helped 23 families in the Sheridan School District, 14 in Inglewood, and we've been able to really utilize all the budget capacity this year. We are basically 84% of the grant spent on helping families with the direct services, with the direct payments for rent and whatnot. And we'll expend the entire grant this next quarter. We typically per quarter we spend between $30,000 and $40,000 on the rental assistance. So we will spend the entire grant. The unfortunate thing right now is that we have zero indication that the grant is going to be renewed. So I'm talking so fabulously about this wonderful grant that we might not get again. We've reached out to the state a few times to talk about renewal. They don't have any idea. Like I said, the grant expires here in about 2.5 months. So I'm not feeling super confident about it. It's a smaller grant. I want to say there's only 7 or 8 partnerships across the state that do this work. We're the only one here in the metro area that's doing this work. And I just don't know if it's going to be on the chopping block with some of the other budget cuts that they need to make at the state. But if we get to keep it, we love it and we will keep it because it's a really nice grant for us to help families. We usually give for families experiencing almost eviction or we're doing homelessness prevention. We usually give them about 3 months of rent that gets them caught up and then gives them a little leeway to have a buffer financially for a while. And it's been really great to have this revenue stream because the state is very more lenient on what we can do. So we can help migrant families, we can help families that are mixed in terms of their citizenship status, which has been really nice in this area to help families who wouldn't be able to be helped otherwise by other programs. And as long as they have kiddos in any one of the schools from even like pre-K, ECE through high school or one of the alternative schools, we can help them. So it's been a really, and it's quick. We're very good at getting the rental assistance out or helping families quickly find housing. Our housing coordinator is excellent at working with families who have like evictions on their records or poor rental history or bad credit. We know the complexes that will take folks with some of those challenges. So we can usually use this money for families very quickly. So it's been a really neat grant. So I'm still crossing my fingers that it gets renewed, but I'm not as hopeful as I have been in the past about grant renewals. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thanks, Lindsay. That's a great overview. I'm still crossing my fingers you're going to get it renewed, but I thought it would be good for this group to see it kind of, even if it doesn't get renewed, as a potential example of something we could explore as the Tri-Cities, a program like
It's been a really
this.
neat model, and it's worked really well. We have an excellent relationship with both of the school districts, even as Sheridan in particular saw some turnover in some of their staff. So I think if, other funding sources could be explored to make this work. The entire budget for the 2 years for the administrative support, all the direct fees, and then for the coordinator salary and whatnot is $300,000. So that's kind of how much it takes for us to run this program for 2 years.
All right, we have a couple questions. Looks like
Yeah.
Sean was first in line.
Thank you, Mayor, and thanks, Lindsay. On the 84% spent, so that means the all funds allocated are 84% spent, but that's what the grant, your current grant is spent.
That's the current grant. That's the
Okay.
current 300,000 that we have. We have about 25,000 left for direct rental assistance, and then we have a couple other little buckets where we pay for fees and other stuff. And we will spend every last dime of it this time around.
Got it. So is there any group that would be helpful for us to reach out to, or our electeds to reach out to, or is it almost completely kind of administrative folks?
I don't know, because I don't know who really knows about the program, right? Because it's not this huge grant. It's not, the state has, a huge ESG grant that they use for rapid rehousing and homelessness prevention. That's a bigger one. I don't know. That's a good question. I think it's probably always helpful to reach out to Meg Froelich, right? Because she's our representative.
Okay.
And she's involved in these things, but I'm just worried because it's so small. It might be really easy. It's like a low-hanging fruit to kind of chop off, right? Because it's not. But yeah, I mean, I think anybody that we know at the state that we could reach out to too would be helpful.
Speaking of people at the state, Gretchen has her hand up.
Oh, Gretchen's at the state.
Go ahead, Gretchen. If you're talking, we can't hear you yet. No, it still shows you muted. We can't hear you. Oh,
You hear me now?
yes, there you are.
Okay, sorry, my connection's bad. Okay, you do know me at the state, so I will help however I can. What department is this grant out of?
Oh,
DOLA?
it's out of, no, I want to say it's out of DOH in their office of like rental assistance. I'd have to look and I can send you over the information on who's the contact person and what office they're out of. I want to say
Yeah,
it's like the
why don't you
office of the
send me
rental
that?
housing programs. Yeah.
Yeah, send me that information because I could at least try to figure out where that's going to be in the budget cycle and see if it's just a matter of approval. And I could ask some questions. So Krista has my contact information.
Okay.
And that's just my personal email, and that's fine. You can send me the information there, and I will ask and see what I can do.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Gretchen.
I would, And at the very least, I would just love some sort of answer because unfortunately the staff that has this position is half of his job is funded by this grant. And so it'll be difficult for us to continue funding a full-time position for a person without this funding.
Yeah, and send me as much information on the grant and the stuff as you can too. If you have a little blurb so that I can not only have the title of the grant, but that helps me investigate which department it's under so that we have in the state house, we have our own liaison. And we're also doing hearings right now, which allows us to ask direct questions.
Ooh.
And we're approving kind of the budget stuff. So we can at least put this in the ear of the people who are approving the budget for where these grants are lying and saying it's really having an impact. And I can talk to our other legislative representatives for the Tri-Cities area too, to make sure they're aware of the good stuff you guys are doing. So if you have a couple bullet points of, again, those 37 families that you helped, I think that tells a really great story. And I can share that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. I'll get you all that information.
Okay, great.
Thanks. Carrie, go ahead.
Good morning, and it's so great to have an advocate down at the State House. Woohoo! Representative Wright, and we're so excited. Lindsey, I'm sorry I got on a little bit late. Did you say that this program, was this started with ARPA dollars, or is this just part of the general fund?
It was originally started back in 2020 with, I think it was CARES dollars.
Okay.
And I want to say they segue to maybe tobacco cigarette dollars, but I'm not 100% sure the back end funding stream.
Well, I'm just wondering with Kathy on the line and Jessica on the line, I'm wondering if it might be really good, as Representative Wright had mentioned, of telling this story of all of these different funding streams that are providing rental assistance to keep people in their housing currently. And because that's the biggest concern I have is, this is 37 families, but, the county is also seeing a drop off on some of their funding from the federal government. So that's an additional number of families. And, maybe if we can kind of paint that bigger picture of this is what keeps people housed, which is much less expensive than trying to deal with them once they become unhoused. So I don't know if there's a way of kind of doing that, but in maybe some of our investigations, we can see if this is general fund money that once Representative Wright figures this out, if this is general fund money or whether this truly is kind of these ARPA dollars and maybe they can scrounge together some other funding at the Department of Housing. So.
Great. Thank you. I appreciate everybody's input and ideas, and hopefully we can keep this going because I think it's a good example of kind of the direct, like a direct funding to families to help them to prevent, as we said, homelessness. And I think that ought to be a big part of our mission here too.
Right. And my favorite part is the educational piece too, right? That kids are staying in school and getting those educational outcomes. Like that's such an important part when we see families experiencing homelessness, is the transientness of kids switching schools and whatnot. Keeping them in their school is so important. Well, I love this grant. I love how it helps families. So I'd love to see if we can figure something out for this.
Yeah. Thank you, Lindsey. Okay, well, we'll move along unless anybody has any last minute questions or thoughts. Okay. Well, I'm pleased to welcome Martin Petrov. I know I haven't met Martin before, so Martin, if you want to introduce yourself, and Martin's going to tell us about a permanent supportive housing project in Aurora.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. Can anyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I'm Martin Petrov. I am the Director of Housing Development at the Aurora Housing Authority. Been with the agency over 8.5 years. Just kind of took over this role last summer. And I just wanted to kind of spend some time and share some exciting news about Sanctuary on Potomac. Let me share my screen real quick. So we're going here. I think I have to. All right, let me know if you can see the PowerPoint.
We can see the PowerPoint. It's not in like
Okay.
exhibit or slideshow mode yet, but yeah. There we go.
Okay. Change here. All right, is this better?
Yes.
Okay, so Sanctuary on Potomac will be our first permanent supportive housing project in Aurora. It's going to be a campus. So Aurora Mental Health and Recovery is basically running the show. They're the master developer. As you can see here on this slide, this is what the campus will eventually look like. Currently, the Aurora Mental Health and Recovery Center is under construction, where the cursor is. It will basically open in Q1 of 26. They have just recently topped off, and we're slated to start construction in May of 2025, which is the building right next to it. Parking will be shared with Aurora Mental Health and Recovery Center, and then the clinic will most likely be added in 2027 once they finish construction on the health center. Then we are going to do construction on permanent supportive housing project, and then they will do the clinic. So what is Sanctuary on Potomac? This is a single 4-story building. It will feature 43 one-bedroom units, permanent supportive housing. All of the vouchers will be provided by our housing authority. And when a tenant lives a year in our housing development, they are able to switch to a housing choice voucher, which gives them an opportunity to move to any public housing authority or housing throughout the nation. So that is a very, very nice feature. We'll have various amenities on site, bike storage, computer room, laundry facilities, a safe courtyard. This design really is a trauma-informed design. Like we said, first permanent supportive housing project, so we wanted to make sure we're hitting all the right points. Open entryway, reception areas will provide visual connection throughout the design, and I will share some photos later. There will be a lot of services provided, and I couldn't fit all of them in here, so I'm just going to switch screens, and you will let me know if you see basically. So different categories, right? All of these services will be provided either on site or at some other facilities from Aurora Mental Health. So we have general supportive services, which vary from tenant orientation to case management, resident services, psychosocial assessment, crisis intervention. This will be targeted mostly to people experiencing homelessness with mental health behavior. So we'll have, and you can kind of see who's providing the services. So it will be between Aurora Housing and Aurora Mental Health and Recovery. We also have, we're going to provide independent living skills for the tenants, communication, conflict resolution, health and wellness education, cooking, meal prep, housekeeping, how to use public transportation if they're not familiar with that, assistance with daily living activities. Then we switch to mental health services. Most of these will be provided, if not all, by Aurora Mental Health. So we'll have 3 total full-time employees on site, and this will be a 24/7 building with 3 shifts of 8 hours plus 24-hour security on site. We will provide 2 full-time employees, and Aurora Mental Health will provide one full-time employee, which will be a mental health case manager. And then we go to the substance abuse services. A lot of the services that are covered here: relapse prevention, substance abuse counseling as an individual or as a group. These again will be provided by Aurora Mental Health and Recovery Center. And employment services as well. We'll be working with Arapahoe Douglas Works for those. Let me know if I'm going too fast. I know it's a lot of them. Just want to kind of give you an overview idea. And then we have services for families as well that will be offered by Aurora Mental Health and Recovery. Okay. And we go back to the presentation. Okay. Go back here. So this is what the timeline looks like. We have selected an architect, Davis Partnership. They are extremely focused on, pretty much their primary focus is trauma-informed design. That's one of the reasons why we chose them. The other reason is they're also building the Aurora Mental Health and Recovery Center on campus. So that coordination is vital to make sure that everything flows smoothly and, you know, color schemes align and services and everything else. Palace Construction was just selected as a general contractor right before the holidays. This week, I've selected Boston Financial as an equity investor. First Bank will provide the permanent construction financing. We've worked with First Bank on pretty much all of our projects. They're a great partner. We're starting financial closing in February. As per contract, we have to break ground in May. So we also have the construction drawings, and the site plan is in an approval phase with the city of Aurora. We kind of got a head start initially when we applied for the project. We got most of it approved. We just need a building permit right now, so we can start construction on time. We're looking at 13 months of construction, so slated for opening in the summer of 2026. Like I said, the Aurora Mental Health building will open the first quarter of 26, so it's going to be a little bit of construction still going on, but all of the referrals will come from Aurora Mental Health. And they currently have over 3,000 people that they can refer. I know it's only 43 units, but we'll kind of make sure that, you know, everybody gets in that is eligible. So we don't think there's going to be a problem with lease ups or anything like that, just because the need is so big. And I just wanted to share some renderings of where the project is right now. We're just looking at this is the kind of like with front entrance with community gardens and some, you can kind of see here where the fence is. That's going to be the safe courtyard. This will be the community room. This is the view of the campus and how trauma-informed design component comes in. Where the reception is, we have eyes on pretty much the entire interior and exterior on the first level. This is where the parking will be around the building, shared spaces with Aurora Mental Health. A view of the lobby and reception area with some of the colors that we picked. Again, these are based on trauma-informed design, so we didn't want to go too loud, but we also didn't want to make it look institutional. So a lot of color Every floor will have a different color. So this is a view of the mail room and the resident hallway. We are trying to make this a little bit like a porch feeling. With this recessed lighting, you have your own, little area. You can set it up as your front porch. Tenants tend to decorate these and make them their own personal space. So every floor will have a different color. So you can kind of, it helps with wayfinding. This is the event room that I showed you earlier, overlooking out to the parking lots. Full kitchen in here, area where people can gather, do community events, spend some time together. And this is the rest of it, which will be the community room that connects to the event room back here. Have a fireplace, a TV, place to just relax and unwind. And that concludes my presentation. Open to any questions.
It's like, I think Gretchen had her hand up first, so we'll start with you.
I did. Thank you. This is so exciting. Absolutely fantastic project.
It is exciting.
my-
We are excited. It took a while to get to this point, but we are excited.
My big question is around the funding model for the mental health services. Do you happen to know what that is? Is that for service? Is that going to be primarily billing Medicaid?
Yeah, so we have a commitment from DOH for 5-year funding on the services. We have a tier 1 determination from them.
What does that mean? I don't know what that means.
So that's the highest determination you can get, which guarantees you 5 years of funding for all the services that are provided on site.
Through the Division of Housing?
Through the Division of Housing, yes. And then we have 43 vouchers, which will basically be covered by HUD for the rent. So that's where the income's going to come in on the project. So yes, services are covered for the first 5 years, and then we'll kind of keep working with DOH. We have some funding as well, and this is different, but for construction from Arapahoe County, from the city of Aurora as well. So to make this happen, but yes, the services are covered, and then Aurora Mental Health will cover their portion, what they're providing. They will cover their portion of the services as well.
So all the actual treatments, which is provided by mental health, Aurora Mental Health and Recovery,
Those will be,
going to do their regular billing. So, but you don't know if that's grant based or if that's fee for service based.
That will be, and I can probably find it. Give me just 1 second.
I'm
So-
guessing it's Medicaid
So
stuff that they're billing.
they will use Medicaid reimbursement for services. And yes, Medicaid. Yep.
Okay, thank you. This is great.
Sure.
I want to be as helpful as I can. So thank you.
Thanks, Gretchen. Any other questions? I think that looks great. I wanted to ask on the list of services, a lot of them said offsite, but are some of those offsite at that neighboring building, or are they off of that campus?
So it depends on the severity. If the Mental Health and Recovery Center can cover those, then it will be on site in the center. If not, it will be on a different Aurora Mental Health site, but they will get, transportation and everything will be included. So if they need to go somewhere else for treatment, the idea was to make it an inclusive campus. So you have your services next door and then you just walk home. That's why the building is facing this way. That's why the mental health center is positioned where it is, just to make it easier for tenants, because as you know, it might get a little bit kind of different if somebody sees them. I've toured a lot of a lot of these permanent support housing projects, and what we hear from staff is people are very defensive, and they have their kind of little circle, and they don't want to disturb it per se. So that's why we wanted to put the two buildings so close together that they feel like it's one thing that they just attend every single day.
Yeah. Devin, go ahead.
First off, Martin, thank you for sharing this with us today. Really, really is helpful as we kind of look at what we want to try and accomplish here. You just mentioned that you toured a lot of facilities as part of your prep for this. If you had to like pick one or two, models out there, who should we go look at? Who should we tour? Where should we tour if we're looking at doing this for us as well? So yeah, who would you say the best providers are out there, the models we should go look for?
Mason Place, I think that's in Fort Collins. It's probably one of the longest standing ones. That is a very, very interesting model. The exact same thing as what we are seeing here, but they have done it for several years. So they know what works, what doesn't. That's why we kind of took some of their ideas and put them in this project. In general, when we selected Davis Partnership, that's all they do is just permanent supportive housing. They cater for exactly trauma-informed designs. So we went, and I have to go back and see because it's been a couple of years that we toured these, but there were two in Fort Collins that were very, very, and I think Mason Place was probably the best of them. If I'm not mistaken, it's a hotel converted into permanent supportive housing. So you have the lobby, and it's just an open design. You can see all 4 floors. You can see kind of everybody moving around and experiencing, the community room is down there, but it's an open design. So it's in the lobby and it's more welcoming to folks when they see it. Staff has clear view of everybody coming in, going out, engaging with each other. So
No, that's great. That's helpful. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
Gretchen, go ahead.
What happens after 5 years for the funding?
We'll just keep applying. I mean, if the program is successful, you can continue to get DOH's support. So around year 3 is when you reapply for continuation of services, and then you prove that you need the support. And if you show that it's the program's working, it's only 43 units, so it is I wish we can do more, but it took us 2 rounds to get tax credits. It's going to take us another 13 months in construction. So by the time we're done, it's going to be 3.5 years of prep and everything to open 43 units. The need will be massive by that time. So you just keep applying.
Gotcha. Thank you.
On that, Martin, on that list of services, I noticed there were some like family services. Are there any families actually living in the housing? Or will there be?
We do not know because we do not have Aurora Mental Health's referral list yet. But if we do, we're ready to provide them.
So the model could include families. It just
The
depends
model
on
could
who's-
include, yep,
yeah. Okay.
exactly, yes. So it's going to be, it's a 1-bedroom units.
Mhm.
These things are tiny.
Yeah.
But this is what people like that are experiencing homelessness.
Mhm.
The design is very unique, and I'm sure you've seen these, but everything's open. There's no doors. The only door is your entry door and your bathroom door. Everything else is wide open, elevated beds so they can see underneath, make sure there's nothing that can disturb them, and the kitchens are kind of catered. There's timers. It's not really a full-size kitchen because we don't want anything that you're not supposed to be doing to be happening in the unit. Not a lot of storage area because, again, people tend to hide things. And so it's not really catered for families, but you can make it work. So we're ready to provide family services if needed.
And it is the hope that people would be able to leave after the year since you have the other vouchers available?
If the hope is to be able to leave when you feel comfortable. So you can live as long as you need
Mhm.
in this project, but the hope is to get you, that's why we're offering all these services to get people stabilized and comfortable enough to leave and seek other opportunities, because we believe in a housing first model. So if you have housing, a roof over your head, then you can focus on all the other things in your life, as opposed to if you work first and then you try to find housing. It's just kind of like you can't juggle both. So that's the idea, is stay as long as you need to, make sure you do all your program and services that you need to, and then when you feel comfortable, then you can move on to the next step.
Yeah. Great. Anybody else have any other questions? I think that was really great presentation, Martin. Thank you. I love hearing
Thanks,
about it, and
everyone.
I'm really happy for you.
Yeah, I'll share progress as we go along, but I appreciate everyone's time and support in this, because it wouldn't have happened without Arapahoe County support. So really appreciate it.
Yeah, they're a good partner. All right. Well, we'll move on. We got a few more minutes left, and Jessica's going to give us an update on safe parking.
And I apologize. I have to jump off because I have
Okay.
a 9 o'clock meeting. So I appreciate everyone's time, and
Thank you.
again, have a good day. Thanks.
So just a brief overview of next steps for safe parking. As many of you may know, as of December 31st, the Colorado Safe Parking Initiative has closed, so they are no longer operating. And what that means, a lot of the existing lots are still up and running, and they're finding workarounds to make sure that no one's uprooted and everyone stays in place. But what that would mean for us as we're working towards a pilot program is that we'll kind of have to pivot and find ways and supporting agencies that can help with some of the intake and some of the administrative duties that were really on Colorado Safe Parking, and really the heavy lift that Colorado Safe Parking had taken supporting the existing lots. So for next steps, I plan on meeting with Jeffco and with a few of the lots that are in Lakewood and Golden, and just kind of getting a good framework, a good idea for what they are doing to make sure that their lots stay in place. And from what I've heard, there's a lot of nonprofit agencies that are kind of stepping in to help fill that gap. But what I've really heard from a lot of safe parking lots is that the Colorado Safe Parking really, the biggest support that they gave was, one, direction, and two, they also really supported the intake, the referral process, and all of the administrative duties. So it may take a few nonprofits and a few agencies within the area to help fill that gap. But my plan is to get a good idea of what that's going to look like and see how we can tap into some of the nonprofits in our county and kind of mirror what they're doing.
So far as you've heard, do those lots just think they can make up that gap? They think they can find the resources? Or...
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
them do.
Okay.
And I know that as of now, none have shut down.
Okay.
And they have no intentions of shutting down. So I'm hopeful that if we can if we can kind of get that buy-in from some other agencies and get the support and have a really solid framework that, like I said, kind of mirrors the other programs that are staying in place, that we'll still be able to continue the work in safe parking and bringing it to Tri-Cities.
Okay. Great. Yeah, I mean, it's sad news, definitely, because it kind of gave us a built-in provider, but I guess you have to kind of start from the ground again. But at least they did
Yeah.
have a model that maybe is replicable by other entities.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is very disappointing news. But I know that the representatives with Colorado Safe Parking are really, really invested in the work that they do.
Mhm.
So they have a will to continue that work and even serve as consultants so that, you know, they can sustain the parking lots that are in place, but also help support the areas that are looking to expand and open some lots.
Right. Carrie, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. Jessica, that's really sad news.
Mhm.
Did they have I mean, do we have a feel for why this happened?
I believe it certainly was funding. Yeah, I think it really was that funding was drying up and their board had kind of decided that it wasn't sustainable.
Okay. Oh boy. Thank you.
Of
Yeah.
course.
Devin, go ahead.
Thanks, Mayor. Maybe a question for our county folks. How does this impact the funding from the county for this effort? Is there any, or does it have any impact on the funding that the county is providing for the pilot program? Was it tied to Colorado Safe Parking really, or not really?
My understanding was that they had the choice to either return it to the county or continue to use it, and they chose to return it to the county. So I don't know for sure. I can get some solid clarification on that. But my impression is that that funding will no longer be available for safe parking.
Okay.
Okay. And Kathy wrote in the chat, it'll be reallocated once it's returned. Okay.
Sorry to end the meeting on a
Kind of a downer
sad
note,
note
but
here.
I am
I have a
encouraged that you think
feeling-
it's doable, though. Sorry. Go ahead, Carrie.
I do.
I was just gonna say, I don't know this for sure. Oh, it was, yeah, you know, a lot of our funding streams, if it doesn't get spent within a certain period of time, it, you know, it's like our ARPA dollars. It's not available anymore. So, oh, that's a bummer. Okay.
All right. Anybody have any other questions? Otherwise, we'll let you get going to your 9 o'clock meetings. No? Okay. Well, thank you all. We had really good speakers today. Some interesting stuff. I appreciate it. And you all have a good rest of the day. Till I see you next
Happy
time.
2025.
Happy New Year,
Yeah.
everyone.